Hare Krishna. So welcome to today's Bhagavad Gita class. So today we're going to be reading from chapter 18, text number 9. And we'll begin with the Jai Radha Madhav prayers. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so thank you. So today we're reading from chapter 18, text number 9, and the Sanskrit is on the screens on each side. So we're just going to do some more invocation prayers. Om Jnana Tirmayandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutaye Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Prasyatya Desatarne. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And before I begin speaking, I'd like to seek your blessings, and also to those who may be listening online, that I may be able to speak something worthwhile. So, Vancha kalpa drubascha, kripa sindhu bevacha, patitanam bhavanebhyo, vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So we'll start with the Sanskrit recitation. Karya mityeva yat karma niyatam kriyate arjuna sangam tyaktva phalam cheva satyaga satviko mataha. Karya mityeva yat karma niyatam kriyate arjuna sangam tyaktva phalam cheva satyaga satviko mataha. Karyam ityeva yat karma niyatam kriyate arjuna Sangyam Tyaktva Phalam Cheva Satyaga Satviko Mataha. Would anyone like to try the recitation, please? Karyamityeva yat karma nityatam kriyate Arjuna Sangam Tyaktva Phalam Cheva Satyaga Satviko Mata. Karyamityeva yat karma niyatam kriyate Arjuna Sangam Tyaktva Phalam Cheva Satyaga Satviko Mata. Would anyone else like to try? Karyamityeva yat karma niyatam kriyate Arjuna Sangam Tyaktva Phalam Cheva Satyaga Satviko Mata. Okay, thank you. So the translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Sri Prabhupada Ki. O Arjuna, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done, and renounces all material association and all attachments to the fruit, his renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. So if you'd like to repeat after me, please. O Arjuna, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done, and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. And purport. Prescribed duties must be performed. So you don't need to repeat this part, actually. Thanks. So prescribed duties must be performed, with this mentality. One should act without attachment for the result. He should be disassociated from the modes of work. A man working in Krishna consciousness in a factory does not associate himself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. He simply works for Krishna. And when he gives up the result for Krishna, he is acting transcendentally. So it's a very small purport. I'm just going to read it quickly one more time. Prescribed duties must be performed with this mentality. One should act without attachment for the result. He should be disassociated from the modes of work. A man working in Krishna consciousness in a factory does not associate himself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. He simply works for Krishna. And when he gives up the result for Krishna, he is acting transcendentally. Okay. So, I just want to go back to the very start about, in terms of sacrifice. We have the modes of material nature, we have the living entities. So in the third chapter, it's stated, verse number 10, Sahayagya Prajastrisva, Sahayagya Prajastrisva Puruvacha Prajapati Anena Prasavisyadvam Esa Vostivisakamaduk. That in the beginning of creation, the Supreme Lord sent forth generations of men and demigods, and he blessed them by saying, Be thou pleased with this sacrifice, because by its successful performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. So the Lord has delivered this world with different sacrifices in different ages. So in the different ages, like in Satya Yuga, it was just meditation. So then in Treta Yuga, if I'm not mistaken, it was sacrifices or else deity worship. I think it's sacrifices. And then in Dwapara Yuga, deity worship. And then in Kali Yuga, it's the chanting of the Lord's holy names. So this is the prescribed duty for this current age. So there's this verse from the Shishastastikam. So Lord Chaitanya, he was the one who inaugurated this Sankirtan movement. So he is Lord Krishna, and he appeared this age as a Yuga avatar. So this is the what's mentioned as the primary benediction, is the chanting of the holy name. And Lord Chaitanya says, and Shishastakam, Chato Darpana Marjanam, Mahabhava Davagni Nivarpanam, Jaya Gareva Chandrika Vataranam, Vidya Vadu Jivanam, Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam, Pratipadan Purnamritsta Vadanam, Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate, Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. So Lord Chaitanya says that the chanting of this Maha Mantra, the Sankirtan movement, that it will cleanse the heart with all the dust that's accumulated for years, and thus it will help us to actually to quell the fire, the blazing fire of material existence. So this material world, this material existence, and all the different, this material world is a place of trials, and it's a blazing fire. So in this material world, it's the chanting of the holy name which brings peace. So through that chanting of the holy name, as it cleanses the heart, it will then finally help us to actually taste that true nectar for which we are always anxious. So in this material world, we're trying to find happiness, but we can never actually find happiness in the material world. And only by actually a devotional service, chanting the holy names of the Lord, then that's when the heart in time will become free from these different coverings of the ego, the dust that's been accumulated for lifetimes. And then that's when we can actually to reawaken a relationship with the Supreme. So that's when we can actually be what's called our constitutional position. So this is our natural relationship. So for the body, the body is natural for the body in this material world, but it's not for the soul. The soul in this material world is like a fish out of water. So it can never be happy. So in these different ages, there's different processes, and we can see in terms of different processes of meditation, even though they're still like bona fide in that sense, but the different processes, they're not meant for this age, such as Astanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga. They're very difficult. They take time. In this day and age, people don't have the right concept of yoga. In terms of, I know in the Western world, they think of yoga more like Hatha Yoga, which is simply just a preliminary step preparation. But it's part of simply just the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. So Ashtanga Yoga is a very bona fide system, but it's not meant for this day and age for the mass of people. If one has to actually, it takes a lot of, like a high standard to meditate. It's prescribed in the scriptures to be like in the forest and so on. So it's not really what's meant for us. So in terms of actual our situation in this material world, the Supreme Lord, He has created all of us and His different energies. So I said, Ipariyam Utasvamyam Prakritim Vidimeparam Jivabhutam Mahabaho Yedam Darite Jagat, that the Supreme Lord, as He has created us, so there's different energies, and we consist of the Lord's superior energy. So we're spiritual, and this material world is matter. And us as living entities, we're simply just, we're trying to enjoy. So it's described as we're trying to actually, to simply like exploit the resources of this material world. And that's what we can clearly actually see in today's world, that the whole society is focused on sense gratification and the externals. So in terms of the general direction, we have a natural tendency to try and exploit and to lord it over the material world. So this is why we're here. That we're trying to actually, I said, we're trying to taste that nectar for which we're always anxious, but that nectar isn't in the material world. It's simply different coverings of our own conditioned nature, which is ultimately a lust in different forms. So in this material world, we have so many attachments, which are very deep-rooted, and so it's described like all these, it's these like hard knots. So the process that Lord Chaitanya has given us is how we can very easily to cut the knots of this material world. So it said, Sasata Kirtayantum, so sorry, Namayanta Siddhadra. So and that verse, it ends with Nityayukta Upasati, that we eternally worship the Lord. So the Lord's devotees they always chant the Lord's holy names, and by chanting the Lord's holy names, they achieve great satisfaction and bliss. And Jai, Jai, Jai. So the devotees of the Lord, they always chant the Lord's holy names, and this process is so merciful that in terms of the other processes, as I mentioned, in terms of Ashtanga Yoga, to actually come to the stage of devotional service, it can take many lifetimes. So in the Bhagavad Gita it said, Bahuman janmanamante gyanavan man prabhadyante vasudeve savaramiti samahatma sarva. That after many lifetimes, or many births, those who are actually in knowledge, we come to actually to take to the devotional service of the Lord, and such a soul is very rare. So this is after many millions of lifetimes, and in the different processes, we don't actually, they're all preliminary in terms of Ashtanga and all this. They don't take the Lord as He is. So this is why Srila Prabhupada has given us such a treasure in the Bhagavad Gita, that the philosophy is all there. The process of devotional service, which is very rare, and we can actually take the knowledge, perfect knowledge, from the scriptures. So in this age, it's mentioned in the Naradiya Purana. It's mentioned Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam, Kalo naste, eva naste, eva naste, eva gatiranta. That in this age of Kali Yuga, that the process is the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. And just to put emphasis, it says, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. So to chant the holy names of the Lord is the process prescribed for everyone. And so much so that all the acharyas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they've stated that when will the day come that all the different sects and creeds will flow like rivers into the ocean of the holy name, that everyone will chant the holy name of the Lord, and then we'll achieve that unity. So just to understand, as it mentions in the verse, in terms of actual yagya, and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruit. So then our renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. So as we mentioned, the process, the chanting of the Lord's holy name, and naturally as the heart gets cleansed, that the mode of goodness will manifest, and then we'll go beyond the mode of goodness. So the mode of goodness, it's still it's not complete. When we go beyond, we can transcend. So the mode of goodness is still a material mode of nature. So the idea is that we can actually transcend. And how we transcend that is, as we continue, the mode of goodness will become completely refined, that we become free of all the two other modes, which are ignorance and passion. And then that mode of goodness will be pure goodness. And then from there we can transcend into that sattva, which is will be transcendental to the modes of nature. So in terms of the different modes of nature, and in terms of yoga, as I mentioned, the process for this age is the chanting of the Lord's holy names and bhakti yoga. So it says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yogasta kurakarmani sangam jaktvadhananjaya sejo sejo samo buddha samadvam yoga uchyate. That when we're situated in yoga, so we should be, we should be equipoised, and then we should give up all attachment to the results and the fruits of our activities, and then such equanimity is called yoga. So that's our goal, is that we simply surrender unto the Lord. And this is a very practical thing, that there's so many different things, as is mentioned, matras parsas kuntiya chishnosna sukadukada gamaya pinonicha stamsidiksvasva bardaha, that happiness and distress, that it will come and go like the summer and the winter seasons. So we must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So this is the equanimity, and it's very practical actually, that we see that everything in this world is the arrangement of the Lord for us. So when we actually, there's our own karma, but that karma is meant also has a rectification that it's meant to help us as well. And it's not that the Lord, it's not that we're being simply punished, but karma is very intricate, and ultimately the Lord wants to try and arrange circumstances whereby we can take more and more shelter in devotional service. So there's when we take to devotional service, karma changes, and so that karma becomes dovetailed for our spiritual advancement. So the Lord will arrange different trials, and He'll give us tests as well. But when we take to devotional service, our karma is minimized, and it's actually everything is the Lord's mercy to help us actually become more purified ultimately, and more devoted to the Lord. So it's said in the Bhagavad Gita, Yataman prapadyante tam sadeva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manusya partha sarvasaha, so that as all surrender unto me, that He'll reward us accordingly. So it's a reciprocation that the Lord is, He's always reciprocating with us, and the more we take shelter of Him, the more we can actually, awaken in that reciprocation. So it's said that ananyas chintayantum, that as we exclusively meditate on the Lord, that He will carry for us, He'll carry what we lack, and He'll preserve what we have. So this is the Lord's mercy, that the Lord will actually take care of us. So in terms of actually understanding renunciation, that what actually is renunciation. So renunciation isn't just simply abnegation. That's not true renunciation. So ultimately, renunciation means that we actually, yes, we abstain from certain things, but ultimately we do whatever favorable to Krishna consciousness. So there's one time that this Srila Prabhupada was shown this by his disciples. There was a picture of a yogi, and there was a big like a hill of notes beside him, like cash. And then the yogi, he had his arms crossed and he looked disinterested. But Srila Prabhupada said if that was him, he would have his arms wide open. So, because it could be used in Krishna's service. So that's the thing, that whatever is favorable to actually for Krishna consciousness is, that's the idea, that we don't falsely actually renounce things, and that's the key to Krishna consciousness. It's that, as I mentioned earlier, the material, we have, Krishna has these energies, the material energy and the spiritual energy, but ultimately it's all Krishna's energies. And in terms of the material world and the material energy, this energy is just due to our attachment. So, everything is ultimately has its basis in Krishna, and due to our material consciousness, we perceive everything as material. So that's the thing, that ultimately, whatever is used in Krishna's service, it becomes spiritualized. So everything can become, transcendental in Krishna consciousness. So transcendental means to transcend the material. So that's ultimately the key for Krishna consciousness. That when we simply engage our senses in Krishna consciousness, they also become purified. So ultimately, as we continue on the path, that our whole ultimately in the future, our whole existence will become completely transcendental over time as we become spiritualized. So when there's for example, like Srila Prabhupada or someone who has realized a spiritual master, that someone who is fully Krishna consciousness, they don't burn the body, they bury it as a samadhi, so people can actually come and take the blessings. So in terms of cremation, that's it's a procedure which is a precaution, so the soul can continue on its journey. It helps to release the soul from attachments. So that's a precaution for someone who may have some material attachments, and it's a merciful cause that will actually, so they won't continue to continue around in that sense. So it's just to understand that ultimately we can all become fully transcendental, and it's very, very easily achieved actually. Susukam kartam avayam, that the process is joyfully performed. So it's a great blessing, and it's the most practical blessing for the sage is to chant the Lord's holy names. So if you'd like to all say it together with me, I will chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I'd like to ask if there's any questions. Yes, please, Prue. Yeah. Yes.
As I understand, Sankirtan means the congregational chanting.
Yes.
It's not something you can do alone, but you need to do it with others, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's Krishna consciousness is ultimately, it's about relationships, and as is mentioned here, renounces all material association. So ultimately, a part of actually becoming spiritualized is to keep good association, which is conducive. So devotee association is very conducive because naturally we don't we don't actually engage in mundane conversations, and we keep things in spiritual consciousness, and that's what will actually help us to purify. So of course we have our own personal sadhana, but then we have kirtan. So kirtan is when we sing together, and so there's different aspects, and some are more suitable as well, so everyone has their own nature. So in that sense there's a place for everyone, but still the yuga dharma, the process for the sage, is the congregational chanting. And we it's very, very blissful to actually, when we chant congregationally, we receive the blessings of Lord Chaitanya. So it's a very effective and very, very blissful process. Yes, Prajnapu. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah.
The association with Bhagavad in the early days, he would even perform a class when there was no one attending. He would do it for his spiritual master, and Krishna. He had that intention, and this goes in line with this verse. Without attachment to the result, he's not looking for lots of people. At that time, he just performed his prescribed duty, which was to the spiritual master, Krishna. So I remember that. I heard it the other night in one of his lectures in the memories, which is very interesting. The same
Yes, yeah.
a session in the life that wouldn't count, but we still just do reading.
Yeah, yeah.
Reading to each other, there's two of us.
No, yeah, thank you. That's, yeah. Sorry, was there one more question this side? If I'm not mistaken, or no? Yeah. Okay, so we'll soon have Gaur Arti at 7 o'clock. So I'd like to thank you all very much for your kind attention, and that will end today's Bhagavad Gita class. So thank you very much. Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, all glories to the Assembled Devotees. Hare Krishna.
How it goes in Hare Krishna?
No problem, I will help you. I'm very bad with